Yo, what up, y'all? Welcome to the family room with your homeboy Track Life. So feeling so good today. You could tell the dedication in this show because, as you know, I'm a huge Laker fan, and the Laker game is actually on right now. So I'm imagining a couple people could catch this on replay. So I'm gonna say this now. Please don't jump in here with the score to the game. I do not want to know it. That's part one. But with all that being said, man, thank y'all for tuning in. You know what? As always, I'm very excited to talk to our guest today. So I want to make sure that I get through the advertisements and introduction as quickly as possible. So let's go ahead and jump into that real quick. Y'all know the deal. Chief Botanicals, CBD products, botanical products. You can make sure that if you go to snapback.com/chief and use the code snapback, you will get a discount on all Chief products. I have the CBD gummies, and we're going to talk to someone who is well educated in the cannabis industry today. So let's jump into it. But before we jump into that, snapbacklive.com/chief and use the code snapback for a discount on all Chief Botanicals. Today, I'm going to talk to a person who I've actually known since I was about 15 or 16 years old. I just known as an aware of, and we were aware of each other. It wasn't until we got older that we actually had a few discussions amongst each other. I've actually always kind of admired how she's just kind of been chill and success. Like to me, every time you saw her, even when she was 15, 16, 17, she just seemed like, yo, I got this. So I've actually always admired that. Years later, I had a chance to tell her that in person, like, hey, ever since I've ever met you, you've just been on point. And I'm always proud to see her successful. She is the owner of Club Kindness. She has written a book called Our Very Special Garden. We're going to talk to the homegirl, MsKindness, right about now. Let me unmute her microphone so y'all can see. And bang, here we are. What's up, Kindness? How you doing?
The home girl. I love that. Yes, I am excellent. I'm excellent. Thank you so much for that intro and for reminding me about that time you told me that. And yeah, thank you so much. I'm so grateful.
Of course, it was genuine. It was true. It's kind of we been passing in these rare moments, right? Because of Chris or music. Chris of course was my manager at one point. Was doing music, and of course your good friend Eileen was little sister to my good friend Bobby. We pass each other, and I never got a chance to say that, but I've actually always wanted to say it, like, yo, you always got things together, like you handle it all, and I always appreciated that about you. So I'm glad to have you on the show.
Thank you. I meditate a lot, and I consume copious amounts of cannabis, so.
Which we'll get into. The meditation part is important as well.
Yes.
So yo, we were off air. We were talking about our first experiences moving to the suburbs. Now, you are from Walnut. I am from West Covina, which is right. I'm from the part of West Covina that's right up the street from you. Mm-hmm. Here was the question that I was going to ask you, but I said I'm going to wait. Uh-huh. When y'all first moved out here as a black family, did y'all do the thing where you waved at any other black family that you saw for like the first 2 or 3 years that you were out here?
Wait. We stopped doing that? Because when did we stop doing that? Because I live in Chino Hills now, and I'll still be like, hey!
Other black people, hi! I swear for the first 5 years, it was like, what? I think it's actually until I got to high school.
That's it. It was, yes, I still do. Yes, we did it. And yes, I still do it. But it's not as much of a shock. When I first moved to Walnut, it was like, hey, hi. Like, it was much more enthusiastic.
It was almost like, wait, what are you doing out here?
Are you supposed to be here? Yeah.
You too? Oh.
Now you just get the nod, like, yeah I see you. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah.
we out here.
Yeah.
Was it a culture shock? How old were you in 84? If you don't mind me asking. I know that's not a question you're supposed to ask a woman, but you know.
I honestly love telling the story because I do a lot of speaking now to women's groups, and lately during this situation that the world has decided to start paying attention to,
right.
I've been asked a lot to come and speak to these groups and educate allies, right?
Right.
So I like to tell the story of the microaggression and how many forms it takes.
Yes.
I'm the master of seeing the microaggression. The first day I ever started in school, I was 5 years old, first grade, started in kindergarten. They put me in the wrong class.
Oh boy.
By wrong class, I mean they put me in the class of students who couldn't read, assuming I couldn't read. Now, I came from private Catholic school in LA.
Wow.
I could read very well. So I'm reading my book. Teacher says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm reading." She said, "Ha, prove it."
What?
To a 5-year-old. To a 5-year-old. I started reading to her. She said, "Oh, you're in the wrong class. You need to go to the office." I thought I was in trouble. That's the first. Second day, I'm playing. Little girl says, "Oh, I can't play with you because you're black." I had no idea what that even, I mean, I knew I was black, but I didn't know what that meant.
Right.
And so it's funny, like jump forward that, little girl Angel, she is now, her husband is now my sales VP, which is amazing. 35 years later, she was my first friend. She's brown skin. She came up to me and she said, "I'll be your friend."
Wow.
So yeah, did I have a culture shock? Yeah. Hell yeah.
That is, yeah. I try to make sure the show is about the guest, so I won't go into my stories. But
yeah, I know you have a ton of stories. The same, we lived a couple blocks from each other. Same stuff going on.
It was very interesting. It was very interesting, and in the same situation, I had just come from a private school. I'd actually come from an all-black private school that had Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, of course Martin Luther King, and several black leaders on the wall that you had to learn in 3rd grade. I had to read Black Boy and Native Son in order to get into the 4th grade class. Like,
wow.
When I got to out here, I was like, I'm sorry, who were you talking to again? You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
I didn't have any particular issues. I just didn't understand it. So I'd imagine it was the same for you because you've always carried yourself well educated. So I imagine that 5-year-old was actually reading like a novel back to the teacher, like, all right,
I am proud of that. That's something that my parents instilled in all 4 of us. Like education is really important. So yeah, I mean, we started early. I read early. My aunt was a preschool teacher, so I got to go to her preschool. So
nice.
I came with confidence and I'm named MsKindness. So either I was going to go under a rock and curl up, or I was going to face it. Right. And so it provoked in me much of who you see today. It provoked me to need to be better. And that's something I think Black people share. Like, we always have to be better than the person sitting next to us because we're Black, which I hate and it needs to change, but it's a reality. Okay. And it activated something in me. And I just was like, oh, I'm going to be better than you and you and you, and I'm going to show you, and you'll see.
Right.
And every little kid that made a smart comment and every little white kid who threw a microaggression at me, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to be your boss one day. That's just what happened in me.
Right.
And it maybe was a coping mechanism, but I'm grateful for it now.
This is one of the best coping mechanisms ever, period. Speaking of educated, though, you actually became an educator, professor, correct?
I did. I always wanted to be a teacher. I was the kid who would like say, okay, everybody line up. We're going to play school. I'm going to be the teacher. And then I would just like make up stuff, Yeah. Can I cuss on here? Because I cuss very freely. Okay.
You're all right. Go ahead. You can cuss, you can smoke. You good. You straight.
So I would just make up shit and be like, we're going to learn this today. And so it's very much in my spirit. Now, funny thing is, backstory, because this should come up real quick in our talk as we get to cannabis. My mother developed 3 paraganglioma brain tumors when I was 17, when I was a senior in high school.
Oh, okay.
And so she had brain surgery. And then radiation proton therapy to shrink the 3rd tumor that was sitting on her brainstem. And it was a very intense time. So I had these other plans I was going to take. It didn't work out. I started college, got accepted to every school I applied to, chose a local school, went for a year, dropped out because the stress was just too much at 18, 19 years old. And so I didn't actually go back to college until I was 22.
Okay.
Yeah, 22. And then I finished in 2 years and I was like, oh, I can actually be a teacher now, which is what I always wanted to do. During that time, I was working in marketing, music. You had seen me, doing stuff with Josh and like moving around like that and doing pretty well financially because I was smart and I could talk to people.
Yep.
But once I graduated college, I was like, I want to be a teacher. So I actually have the opportunity now. So I went straight into graduate school, became a high school teacher, and started teaching at Pomona High because I was like, I'm going to go teach where they need me.
Dope. That experience leading into now homeschooling children of your own due to this in this time. You ready to go back to Pomona and teach? You ready? Are you?
I'm ready to go back to Pomona and teach. So now I teach community college, which I love. I teach at LA Southwest.
Nice.
Also, thank you. A community that needs us, a community that is underserved, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it so freaking much. Actually, I'm working with them through Club Kindness to develop programs where we can take students through our non-credit department, give them the job skills they need to enter into the licensed cannabis industry, because we need to be a part of this.
That is
and dope. When I say we, I mean us, and by us I mean Black people. So
I'm fine with that as a directive. Yeah. Shout out to my man Abloon in the chat. Shout out to Jay Broski in the chat. Two folks from West Covina as well.
Hey.
The big deal, the big thing that I really enjoy about this, about talking about Club Kindness with you though, is that you are a Black woman in this industry. Probably one of a very few. I mean, I'm making a horrible assumption, but correct me if I'm wrong.
No, women are about 30% of cannabis, and Black women are about 4%.
Okay, cool. I went out there on a limb.
Of that. Let me be clear. And if you understand mathematics and statistics, which I'm a math teacher, call me after, it's 4% of that 30%.
So yeah. It's I was right in my assumption. I'm not happy that I was right in my assumption. How has it been moving through that situation? Like, are you taken seriously? Do you deal with a lot of the microaggressions you dealt with when you first, moved out to Walnut? How has your experience been in the cannabis industry?
That's a great question. It's really, truly a microcosm of the world. It is just another space where, frankly, white men have come in and taken over and dominate. It's another space where people at the table who are diverse aren't heard. Have I been taken seriously? Yes, because I require that. If you're going to interact with me, that's how it's going to be. Right. Have I also been in scenarios where people have blatantly made racist comments and statements? Yes. Are we dealing with the severe social justice issue as it pertains to cannabis specifically in this war on drugs? Yes. And are there tremendous people ignoring it? Hell yes. And it's frustrating, and it's a fight every single day. But for those of us who have found this connection to the plant, it's not a hard fight. It is hard, but I mean, it's not hard for us because we just can't stop. I can't put down this baton.
It's a fight that's worth it.
Yes.
It's a fight that's worth it because in your experience, you got into the cannabis industry based on healing your own self. I'm very interested in that experience. And you also kind of become a pretty strong voice. I don't even want to say a pretty strong voice. Like you're pretty much my voice. When I need information, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just kind of, I don't even ask. I just kind of scroll through your page and, okay, that's what that is. So you're dealing with being a woman in this industry. You're dealing with being a Black woman in this industry. You're dealing with the stigma of cannabis, but you also are dealing with the fact that this isn't just something that you decided to try and smoke. This was actually a healing process for you personally. Can you tell me about that? Like, how did you
absolutely. I needed it, and I didn't know it, and we all need it because we all have an endocannabinoid system. Okay. But what happened to me, I was 26 weeks pregnant. I slipped on a puddle in a grocery store. I fell, went into the splits, damaged my pelvis, developed a condition called symphysis pubis dysfunction, SPD for short. Basically put me in excruciating pain. Doctors were like, here, you can take opioids. And I was like, y'all trying to kill my Black baby. No. So I smoked weed like with the homies, you know what I mean? But there was no consciousness around the medicine. I just was hanging out. At this time in my life, my husband and I, we had a juice bar, and we were really into natural remedies, juicing and things like that. And people had been joking saying, oh, you should put weed in these popsicles. So I Googled natural remedies for chronic pain. And I joke and say, Siri said, weed. And that was it. Like, I literally went down the rabbit hole trek and found all the lies, the social justice connections. I started to have my own personal connections to people in my life who were suffering from the war on drugs, and started playing around. I did this new moon to full moon tincture, put a little bit of weed and some alcohol and put it in the freezer, put it in my tea one day. I was sitting at my desk and working on some new stuff, and I was drinking the tea slowly, and I remember looking up going, oh, excuse me. And I was like, oh, this is right. I had never had edibles before. I had only smoked a few times. I didn't know like what to expect. That was wonderful, which I now consume cannabis for so many reasons as a part of my holistic practice. But also 5, 6, 7 hours later, I had no pain for the first time in months.
Wow. Okay.
And that was it. So fast forward, I test positive. Now I'm dealing with social services. Is there abuse going on in the home? Are there any other kinds of drug problems? Now, I'm a master's degree teacher who didn't want to take your pills. That's what's going on, right?
Right.
I saw that I had to advocate for myself. I had to contact an attorney and say like, yo, is this okay? Can they make me go to therapy? Because they were trying all of that. And I had my doctor, my primary care physician. I told her I was using cannabis. She said, how come you're not, taking any of your pills? How come? I said, I'm using cannabis. And she said, oh my God, that's so wonderful, but I can't put it in your file.
Right.
Because there are only two options. It's basically addicted and not. I'm a drug addict if she puts that. The rest is history. I decided I needed to start Club Kindness and teach the world.
And you are doing just that. Now, you talked about the social justice portion of this. You talked about the stigma and how many brothers and sisters have suffered going to prison, suffered records for this, and now it's an industry in which you've been able to succeed amongst a lot of people who didn't suffer that issue. As a community, they didn't suffer the issue of going to jail consistently. People have cases on their records from years ago, friends of mine, family of mine.
Stupid stuff, real stupid stuff.
Yeah, for stuff that now, that's okay. Now, I specifically remember making a post on Facebook about something like this and you giving out information to help people remove these things from their record. Now, that was dope. Have you been experiencing helping people in that way?
Yes. And the timing is pristine for us to be having this discussion because National Expungement Week is coming September. It's the 21st through the 26th. In fact, the book, Our Very Special Garden, proceeds from the book are going to the Social Impact Center. Nice. The Social Impact Center. They are working with National Expungement Week, Black-led organization, Social Impact Center, Latina, LGBT-run organization. Let me put that out there. That's where proceeds from the book are going. They are hosting National Expungement Week. Club Kindness is helping to support it with volunteerism and outreach. Pay attention, follow them now, Instagram, wherever you can. They're putting out calls right now saying, if you have this, first we need to get your record. So it's coming. We're going to have clinics all throughout LA. And if you're not local, still contact them and they'll send you to who's in your area.
All right.
Yes.
I'm going to make sure I clip that.
You need to get your records expunged.
You do, because it's first of all, it's necessary. Second of all, it should be done anyway. Period. Right.
So the state of California is attempting to do this sort of roll through, like find their records, clear them. Governor wants to do that.
Yeah.
But then the COVID hit, and we're really busy. So it's not happening.
I can only imagine. Now, clubkindness.com is where you
clubkindness.org.
.org. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Good. I'm glad we got that correct. Let's talk about the book.
Let's talk about the book.
Let's talk about the book. And here's the thing. I'm doing this deliberately because these are things when I see people that I know, you want to give people their flowers. So every guest I've had on, I'm not bringing people on for like this controversial conversation. I'm like, hey, I respect what you've accomplished. I want to talk about it, right? If I could pick a person out of a crowd that I knew would eventually write a book, I'm just saying.
It was me.
It would be like top three. Like, all right, well, her guaranteed she's going to write a book someday. I don't know about what, right? But she's definitely going to write a book one day.
I love it.
What made you decide to do so?
So many people have called this to me, I think, and I've called it to myself. I said today, all I want to do is just write books and teach. That's all I want to do. And I just was joking, but like, I wasn't joking. I said it very tongue in cheek, but I meant it, I guess. I was inspired because, again, we talked a little bit about changing the stigma, right? Who am I? I am a woman, a mother, a Black woman, a teacher, now a published author, a wife, a professional. And I smoke weed every single freaking day. And I love it. It's a part of my lifestyle. It's a part of my healthcare practice. My children are very knowledgeable. Before we got on here, you heard me tell my daughter, I'm going live. You got to get out. They know. I mean, my office is like, we've got like weed props in here. You know what I mean? I'm going to stop you right here.
Anybody watching this show right now, She was in full mom mode before we got right. I'm like, oh, she parenting right now. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows, like, you was full MsKindness mama before we jumped onto this show. But go ahead. I'm sorry to cut you off.
And I'd be like real direct about it. They're good kids, though. I think it's because they take CBD every day. I give my children CBD. We have endocannabinoid systems. We need it. There's the dog. It's always him.
All good. All good.
That's the wonderful thing about doing everything in the internet.
Yes.
Yeah, they are very knowledgeable. My 10-year-old can talk to you about THC, CBD, different cannabinoid profiles, and we grow at home. He's mindful. He knows, and so that was the inspiration for the book. It's our garden, literally. We also grow fruit and vegetables. We also have a tortoise who you'll see in the book. We
Nice.
we actually grow weed next to our lavender. And so it's that. This book is a story of the Root family and their experience growing a garden together. And it was inspired by my son because he is very like hands in the dirt outside. Let's do this. Ooh, mom, what's that? That smells good. That's not a good strain. I can tell that's stinky. I mean, because he's drawn to it. Yeah, they know there's no mention of smoking in the book. It's geared toward children. It's about a cannabis farming family. It's not about smoking weed.
It's amazing.
And there's even a glossary in the back so people can learn.
That's amazing. Do you find, now we've talked about the negative stigma, cannabis is bad, stay away from it, it's a drug. We talked about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, working in this industry, do you find that some of the more positive, weed is so much fun, hip hop culture of weed makes it difficult to also kind of progress this industry? Or is that, not an issue?
I don't want to say yes to that, but yes, only because we had this white man take over. And so they continue to be able to vilify it with that, the same way we vilified it in order to take it into prohibition. Now they get to do it in a corporate way. But that's why I think things like this are so important. I do shows all the time and I bring on everything from a stoner to a doctor because we have to show the culture in context, right? And these people who are enjoying music while smoking weed, they're doing the same thing our ancestors have done for thousands of years.
Fair point. Very fair point. I felt like maybe the ability to use that against the industry and the movement of building health through cannabis, helping people understand what it is. I felt like maybe there was a roadblock there, but I'm glad that it's a sort of a yes and no answer.
It is a yes and no answer because we have to bring that to the forefront to push that sort of roadblock, away. And I think it's important to show that it's normal to, whether you smoke it or, like, for example, with my kids, my son sees me smoke. I don't hide it from him. But also very factually, I tell him hot smoke is bad for a developing brain, not the cannabinoids, the hot smoke.
Right.
So we just talk about it like that. And I think we have to just have more of those conversations. And let's also talk about this. You specifically said hip hop. So my brain went to people of color.
Sure.
That's the thing. Anytime we can vilify people of color, we will.
Very true. Very true.
The white kid at Coachella smoking weed, it's okay though. It's not portrayed in the same way. And we know that's a reality.
It's funny that you mentioned that, and I'm going to call myself on this. I actually thought of more of the Orange County white hip hop scene when I said that.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean that's more of the weed culture hip hop that I'm used to listening to. Not listening to, but I've been involved in. So I'm like, well, yeah, I guess that adds another layer to it because I didn't even think about it from a people of color aspect, which I should always be thinking, to be honest with you. But I thought of more.
It's ours. So
yeah, it definitely is. But I'm from an outward expression of it, I actually was combining like Sublime and that type of culture into it. My mind really went there. That's you actually kind of was like, yo, where are you at right now?
That's interesting. Yeah. Well, I think, but I do think that they get a pass more, obviously.
That I agree with.
Everything. Yeah.
I agree with that. Where do we start? We obviously should start with your book, right?
We should start with.
We should start with. I'm saying
it's gonna spark a can of conversation. Let me tell you something. We wrote it as far as educational level vocab, 8 to 12-year-old, right? But my 4-year-old, 5-year-old friends, kids, they're like, that's so cool. We love it. Because again, it's just a story about a cool family, right?
Right.
And the grandmas really love it. This is something I wasn't expecting, that when I read it to people over 50, they were really proud of it. And I'm talking some of my elders who are very conservative church-going folks. They were really proud of it. They were like, this is, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I love that you're presenting. Oh, this is so great. So that is just the coolest thing, that you can read this with your entire family and no one will be offended and you will spark a conversation. And so we should start there. And
where do we get this book from? Just before.
So you can order it on MsKindness.com. It's pre-selling right now. We said we're going to talk about this real quick. I had to switch illustrators in the middle of the book because of some business stuff and people trying to take from you. And so we had a delay in shipping. So we're going to start shipping September 15th, but we are already sold quite a few books. I'm really excited. And if you order up until September 15th, I will sign all of those books.
Awesome.
So,
that is awesome. That's necessary. So you were going to the next step. I wanted to make sure that we know where to get the book at. So we've started with your book. We're educated. I'm talking as a person who doesn't know anything, a person who even buys into the stigma a little bit. What's the next step in bringing that person around to understanding what the cannabis industry is all about, the health, the value of health that cannabis brings, and just an overall general understanding? What is the next step?
So just like everything that I teach, it's about the pedagogy, right? Like how you teach. It starts with a question. We have to meet people where they are. And in order to meet someone where they are, you have to know where that is. So you have to ask them a question. So you need to say, oh, what's your experience with cannabis? What do you think about cannabis? What do you know about cannabis? And everybody's got an opinion about weed.
Right.
So
right.
It's really easy.
No matter who, yeah.
Yeah, no matter who you are. So it's going to be really easy to start that conversation once you know the baseline you're dealing with. And so that's the first thing I say when it comes to teaching, right? Just like you assess your students on the first day of class, you know where they are, so you know where to start. That's how it begins. And then if somebody tells me like, oh, weed is bad, or my favorite is it kills brain cells, you just combat it with factual data. Actually, did you know that in 1992, we discovered that we have an endocannabinoid system and it communicates directly with what's in the plant. You don't always have to get high when you're using weed. Really? I thought it was just for people who want this. Conversation on, right?
Nice.
So you just got to meet people where they are.
Do you find these conversations just to kind of swing from that very moment, or do people still push back on you when you bring up the data?
They push back with personal experiences.
Okay.
Because that's all they have. I mean, I'm giving you data and you don't have that. I know you don't have it because I just told you it, right? And not you. I mean, the person I'm talking to.
You also might be talking about me in some cases, but continue.
And the next push, usually because I can meet people where they are and give them something to go, I just changed your mind. I don't have this challenge. But the next thing that always happens if there is a pushback is, I had this experience with my so-and-so and they had this. And so that's why weed is bad.
Right.
Okay, well, now we're talking about an end study of one that does it, an anecdotal experience. Everybody has different experiences with cannabis. That's why it's so important to be knowledgeable about it before you start trying to consume it. So tell me more. What was that situation like? What happened to them? Right?
Right.
Now we've got empathy. Everybody loves to talk about themselves. And as soon as they start telling me a story, I'm going to pick in what they did wrong and why it happened. The kid was probably lazy before he started smoking weed, to be honest.
Nice. That's very true. I could go into my personal experience with certain peers that could prove that to be true. Like, yes. I knew that kid in 4th grade.
Yes.
He was like that before he even knew what weed was. So
Thank you.
I'm glad that you brought up the personal experience component of this, though, not just specifically for the cannabis industry and things of that nature, but just for general conversation. I find that a lot of people really believe that personal experience is legitimate data. And I constantly find myself saying, hey, That's not true data. That is your one experience. It's
I
one to
know.
one.
I'm friends with you. I see you trying to moderate these conversations all the time.
That is my life, kindness. That is
Yes.
my life. Just trying to moderate ridiculous conversations. We're coming up on the end of time. I want to make sure that I tell you how much I appreciate you as a person. Thank you for coming on to the show. Thank you for all the information. I do want to run down clubkindness.org, right?
Clubkindness.org.
MsKindness.com.
MsKindness.com. And if you go to MsKindness.com, you can link to every project I have going on.
All right. And we'll conclude with the question that we could have started with, that most people start with, I'm sure. MsKindness is your real name. Can you tell everybody that? And tell me the experience in trying to explain to people that is your actual name.
You are such a good interviewer, let me tell you that, because I was like, he's going to ask me the name question. He didn't ask me the name question. I love it. You are so good. So, yes, Ms. Kindness is my first name altogether, just like that, Ms. Kindness. People that know me from back in the day, like you, call me Kindness, right? But you who don't know me are not allowed to call me Kindness, okay, out there in the internet.
It's Ms. Kindness, full.
Ms. Kindness. My daddy named me Ms. Kindness. He said, as long as your name is Ms. Kindness, you will always be addressed as what you deserve.
That is
like in my soul, Trek. And every time I tell it, it gets me.
That's
because
dope. Because every time I see your soul, it gets you, because I want you to finish that one, because that's such an amazing statement. Continue.
It just is. It's like, we're talking about a man who was born in 1946, Vietnam veteran, later became an officer, grew up in LA, Watts specifically, had to battle civil rights. I mean, wasn't called sir like he should have been, right? And so he said that as long as that's your name, then you'll always be addressed as what you deserve. There's just so much fucking power in that. Like, I'm just,
Yeah, it is. That's crazy.
So,
all right.
It's really my name, y'all.
It is really her name. And do not address her as Kindness. If you see her personally on our social media, address her as Miss Kindness. I'm going to call her Kindness because I've known her since, it's been 20 years now. 30.
Yeah.
No,
more.
almost 30
more.
years
Be
now.
quiet.
Yes. All right, I'll stop. Thank you so much for being on the show. We actually disagree quite a bit online, so I didn't bring any of that up. We'll talk about some of those disagreements next time I bring you on the show. But for now, I want to make sure that we gave you your flowers. Thank you so much. Everybody, please make sure you go to MsKindness.com. Any last thing you want to say, Kindness, go ahead, shoot it out right now. What else you got to jump on? Let's go.
Take a moment to meditate every day. Sneak in some silence, okay? Eat your weed. You should be eating your weed, and always, always lead with gratitude.
Bang. Just like that. Thank you so much. We're gonna go ahead and pay some bills and get on out of here. Thank you, Kindness. Stay on just for a minute so I can go ahead and finish out the show. So just hang out. I'm going to go ahead and mute your mic, which, is not a happy moment for me, but we're going to do that. And I'm going to go ahead and jump back into this. We have been talking about, first of all, I am going to share the information with Chief. That's my sponsor. But I also am going to discuss with Ms. Kindness to, have a Club Kindness sponsorship to help you guys as well. So first I'm going to start with, go to clubkindness.org for anything that Ms. Kindness is working on. Her book, Our Very Special Garden, you can find that there. You can find out about Club Kindness. You can find, if you go to, let me run it back because I'm talking too fast. Go to MsKindness.com for anything that Ms. Kindness is working on. Her book, Our Very Special Garden, can be found there. You can find out about Club Kindness, which is clubkindness.org, making sure all the information is correct because people be messing up. And you can get further information there. If you would like a discount on Chief Botanicals, you can go to snapback.com/chief and use our code SNAPBACK for a discount on all natural Chief Botanicals. Thank you guys very much. That is the close of the show. I appreciate being able to hang out with my guest. And we are out of here like last year. I'm going to catch y'all next time. On the count of three, we say peace. 1, 2, 3. Peace. And we out, y'all.